Hello, and welcome back to more stories with Mr. Faber. I am your host, Mr. Faber, and here we are with another part to the adventures of Atticus, part 13. I know a lot of you have been asking in the live chats how many parts there are. All I can tell you is that we are coming up to the end. There might be 15 parts, 16 parts. It's really hard to say because I've never really measured the Adventures of Atticus story in this kind of way before. But we're coming up on the end of the first book, and then we'll take a couple weeks off before we start the second journey, the second book. So there we go. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and jump right in to part 13. So last we left, poor Atticus had died, this time for real. There were so many times that he had died, but never really. This time he got hit in the heart. The really sad part too was that he died, and at that very moment that he had died, Adora and his parents had driven up because they were going to come and try and help out however they could. So the scene that we're coming into is this scene with Dora and Atticus's parents. You got Zales and Zeus, Poseidon, Nostalgia, and Arania, these heroes who are sort of standing just dumbfounded about what they're seeing. This group of Oregonian and Idahoan militia on the other side of the street, Atticus in the middle, and then these former enslaved Walla Wallians who are standing to fight too, but nobody really knows what to do because no one was expecting this. So they're just sort of standing there at a standstill. And that is where we start. So, it's very, like Adora runs out as soon as she sees him. You know, she really doesn't care about the two sides or anything like that. She runs out and she's crying and she's holding Atticus. Atticus's parents come out and they're doing the same, but everyone else is just standing there like they don't know what to do. Zeus and Zales, all those guys, you know, they're sad. They're so sad. Arania, she didn't feel it before. She was sad when she saw her cousin die, but she didn't feel it before. This time she felt in her heart that he really was gone. And so there was just this sadness that was sweeping over them. Zales, her oldest and best friend, she was just in tears for. You know, they just stood there sort of sad and crying, and they didn't know what to do. This enemy that was on the other side, they didn't know what to do either, because their goal was to kill Atticus, and that was done. And so then there's this other side that's just sort of standing there, and no one knows what to do except wait. And they kind of look at Zales because she's sort of this leader. I mean, she's the one that they if Atticus isn't around, who else is going to do that? And she's the one who's always been very courageous, very, you know, let's do this, let's do that. She was the one that would be able to calm Atticus down when he was starting to get angry. And she was, of course, the smartest one there. And so everyone is sort of on the good side. They're sort of looking at her, kind of seeing if she's going to make a move or if she's going to say, let's go back to Seattle, or what are we going to do? And so all of a sudden she wipes the tears out of her eyes and she goes, let's do this. Let's do what Atticus would do. Let's fight for what's right. And she looks at her heroic friends and she gives them a nod, and she said, let's do this. Let's do this for him. So Zales and Zeus got airborne, okay? Zales went flying, and Zeus went glass ship, you know, got his glass ship and started flying overhead. Poseidon started charging forward into the group, with Nostalgia right behind, and you can sort of see this picture of Nostalgia and Poseidon, this very diverse, different, very big, strong, powerful guy, little dainty, you know, teenager girl in a dress, and she just sort of leans down on the ground and taps the floor and creates this frost thing that freezes these soldiers in place, and then Poseidon just smashes them down to pieces. Meanwhile, you've got the angel and the pirate up in the sky, Azales that looks like an angel of fire shooting fire down, and Zeus, who's got his glass ship looking like a glass ship captain pirate, shooting glass cannonballs down to his enemies below. Meanwhile, Urania is doing what Urania does best by herself. She is disappearing and reappearing, attacking the enemies everywhere there is a place to be attacked. And so these guys are doing it. These Walla-Wallians, they're grabbing whatever they can to help fight too, and they all move past the scene of Atticus, Adora, and the parents, and start pushing back this enemy. And they're doing great until more and more these weaponized, mechanized infantry come, and all of a sudden they aren't sure what's going to happen. They feel like they're losing. Like in this moment, they feel like they're going to start losing. Zales and Zeus, all these guys are being very brave and heroic because they are fighting knowing that these weapons, unlike before, where they had protection, they knew Atticus would stop these bullets, they stopped these metal weapons of war. Now they had to fight this without him. And so they were being really brave and heroic, but they weren't sure if they'd be able to do it. And all of a sudden, these bullets that were coming at them just sort of stopped, hovered, and floated, and they saw that Atticus had woken up. And that was an odd song. The actual song was more, the other song that actually goes with that scene has more orchestra and less of just a piano thing. But anyway, that's fine. If you were wondering why the feeling of the song was off from what actually happened, then it was because of that. Anyway, what had happened was Adora had kissed Atticus, and that kiss of love had brought Atticus back. But what had happened was Atticus, as they would soon find out, which we'll find out in the next scene. So Atticus stopped him. Everyone looked back, saw that Atticus was alive. They were excited, and they rebuilt part of the wall, but they knew that General Michael was not going to accept this defeat. And already the state of Washington had built like a huge fortress around the city of Seattle, and a lot of the people had moved there, but they knew that people on the east side of the state wouldn't get there in time. So Atticus dug underground and started making a city made out of pure metal, all underground. And he was using his powers just to, like, it started like it's just a little hole, but as he kept forming and forming more of the hole into this huge underground city with structures to hold the ground up, and huge cities and houses and buildings all over the place. People started coming down and seeing this magnificent city, and people all over the east side of the state were informed of this huge city that they could retreat to hide from when the army would come bailing across. Meanwhile, Zales had researched on that poison, and she kept researching on it because she wasn't sure, and she was testing Atticus's blood too because she wasn't sure what this had done, even though he had come back miraculously from Adora. He didn't know, she didn't know what this was going to come down to. And it was a good thing that Zales was doing what she was supposed to be doing, because she was right. She figured out that the poison was still in Atticus's blood. And after that huge show of work, he had lowered his life expectancy from 10 years to about 1. And she said, "You cannot use your metal power anymore, Atticus. 1 year is all I need to be able to come up with a cure, but don't use any more of your power, because if you shorten your life anymore, every time you use your power, your life gets shorter and shorter. So you cannot use your power anymore." And he's like, all right. So all the people had gotten stored in the underground thing. They started driving back to Seattle, and that's when they heard the rumbling. And they looked behind them in the rearview mirror, and they saw the army was coming. Not a militia, not a small group of Oregonians or Idahoans. This was the entire United States Army charging towards them. Atticus put his hand out to prepare to use his attacks, and Zale said, "No, Atticus, don't do it." He said, "Okay." Okay, we got to go faster though. And so Atticus' dad was pushing the gas, going faster and faster, but it felt like the army was getting closer and closer. He was pushing the gas as hard as he could, and Atticus is like, please let me just give the car a boost, and Zales is like, don't you dare! And so they went as fast as they could. They finally got up to a speed where the army slowly started fading away into the distance. And they reached the gates of Seattle. Now, Seattle was not the way Atticus had remembered, because truly, this city had become a city fortress. Gigantic concrete walls surrounded the entire city. Giant AA guns and M6 guns that can shoot down aircraft or shoot at tanks, things like that, shoot at ships, were mounted all on this giant concrete wall. Millions and millions of people, not only people from Washington, but people from other places who were trying to find security for their children, had fled to this city. It had become a place filled with hope and a lot of people. And Atticus came in, and immediately Zales started discussing things with the army commander, and she was sharing her powers and Zeus's and all the other heroes who could help defend against this army. Now, the good news was the army seemed to have stopped a few kilometers away. The Navy on the west side also had stopped out of the reach of the guns, and it seemed like, for the moment at least, that Gundrel Michael was not interested in starting an all-out battle. He only wanted to surround the city and show them that they were trapped. What will happen next will be left to the heroes. Well, in spite of this chaotic madness, this was the first time in a long time that Atticus finally got to see his family again. Of course, he had seen his parents, but seeing his grandparents, his aunts, uncles, his cousins again being trapped in the city, what else was he going to do but see them? And he got to see his family again for the first time in a long time. And he was so happy to see them. He was so glad that he got to spend some time with them. I mean, right now they couldn't really do anything. They didn't want to attack, and they didn't. And Atticus was told by Zales that he couldn't attack. He was not allowed to do anything with his mental power. And so Atticus decided to take this time to be with his family. He also wanted to take this time to spend some time with Adora. And even though he hadn't done it yet, he was thinking about finally taking her on that second date that he had always dreamed of. So as he spent time with his family, he just sort of soaked in. Even though most people were a little scared, a little anxious, Atticus was soaking up every minute he could with the people that he loved the most. Well, Atticus was enjoying his time with his family when all of a sudden someone came and told him the news. It was actually Nostalgia. Nostalgia came up and said, "She's gone, Atticus. She's gone. We don't know where Zales is. She was in her lab doing experiments for your cure, and now we can't find her anywhere. Can you please help us find her?" And Atticus is like, that's fine. Nostalgia, stay here, take care of your grandparents, take care of my family, and I'm gonna go take a look at what's going on, okay? And so he went back to Zale's lab, followed tracks that led out of her lab, and found that Zales had been kidnapped. She had been kidnapped by another hero. Now this hero had been found by Gundrel Michael, and Gundrel Michael used his power to gain control this hero. This hero's name was Apollo. And Apollo was this huge, menacing man. Even though Poseidon was stronger than this Apollo guy, Apollo was at least 1 foot taller, about a third of a meter taller. He was huge, and he was just really, really big. He wasn't very smart, though. As Atticus came into this warehouse where Apollo had brought Zales, he saw that Zales was chained up, and he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. This dumb guy has captured me, and I just need to go." And he's like, "All right, well, let me just melt the chains." And she's like, "No, don't melt the chains. Just find the key, okay? It's on his neck. It's on his neck." And she's sort of gesturing over there, and Atticus is like, "Oh, what?" And she's like, "Over there." And he's like, "Okay." And he looks over, and seriously, this guy was so big. And the color of his skin and everything, the texture of his skin even, he looked almost like a rock with hair. I mean, that's what he looked like. So Atticus looked over and he's like, okay, that guy. And she's like, "Yeah, just get it from his neck." And so he's like, "Okay, all right." So he walks over quietly, carefully, to go get the key off of this guy's neck. He's walking carefully, quietly, making sure not to wake him up. Goes over to take the necklace off, and as he takes the necklace off, Apollo wakes up. And he starts punching at Atticus. Atticus is fast enough. He jumps out of the way. Whoa, easy, easy. All of a sudden, from behind Apollo's back, pulls out this giant club with a huge stone on it, and he starts smashing the ground. And Atticus is like, "Whoa, this guy really is slow and a little stupid." And Zales is like, Good, yeah, insult him. That's what you want to do. It just barely misses Atticus' head. He's like, "You're right, sorry." He's trying to grab the key, grabs the key, and he starts running towards Zales, and he's like, "I got it!" And Zales is like, "No." And all of a sudden the ground starts to shake, and out of the ground, it's not actually out of the ground, it looks like it's coming out of the ground, but the ground actually is coming up itself, because Apollo has the power to control earth, a stone. And so he's starting to form these golems that are charging after Atticus. And these golems are about as slow and dumb as Apollo. And so Atticus is actually not having too much of a hard time. He's like jumping on top of their heads. And he's like, look at me, Zales, I got this. And he's jumping on top of Apollo's club and then jumping on his head. And he's like, "Oh man, this is so easy. Come on, Apollo, what do you got?" And Apollo's, and he's swinging at him, and Atticus is like, "Okay." And Zales is sitting there going, "Will you stop goofing around and just get me out of here so we can get out of this mess?" And Atticus is like, right, sure. And so he's like jumping down. He's like, "All right, I got this. And he's running around trying to get past these guys. But honestly, Atticus is having a little too much fun, because even without his powers, he's feeling kind of cool dodging these guys because they're going so slow, and he feels like he's kind of like, I'm beatable, kind of thing. So he runs over, he gets close enough to Zales, and he's like, "Zales, did you see me? Did you see me back there?" And Zales is like, "Come on, get me out of here now." And he's like, I got this. It was so much fun. And Zales is like, no, look out. And Atticus turns around and he sees this whole group just charging at him, and he's like, "I got this." He jumps up, he grabs something on the one of the chains and does like a backflip and starts hopping all over them, and he's like, I got this, I can do this forever." And Zales is like, "No, Atticus, watch out." And Atticus is like, "Watch out for what? I got this." And Zales is like, "Watch out for that." And all of a sudden the club comes swinging around from the dark and hits Atticus right in the head and knocks him out. When Atticus wakes up, he is chained up next to Zales. Zales is eyeballing Atticus and going, "Great job. Great hero who's going to save me. Now what are we going to do?" And Atticus is like, "Well, we could do the plan that I originally thought, which is, how about I just melt the chains and then we get out of here?" And Zales is like, "No, you're not going to risk your life just for this." And Atticus is like, "Okay, well, do you have a better plan? Because I don't think he's going to give us s'mores or anything like that. I think he might kill us, okay?" And Zale's like, all right, well, fine. Just don't do super metal man, okay? Melt like one of your chain links. And so Atticus just sort of barely melts one of the chain links and slowly loosens himself up as the chains come down. She's like, shh. And Atticus is like, okay, how about you distract him, okay? And she's like, okay. Hey, handsome, how are you doing? Atticus is like, what are you doing? I'm trying to seduce him? What? You're trying to... Okay, don't make me laugh. Hey, come on over here. And the guy's like, be quiet. Atticus finally gets loose, but he's like laughing so hard. He's like, I can't believe that's you trying to seduce him. She's like, get me free or I'm going to kill you. It's like, okay. He melts one of her chains, gets her free, and of course, then Apollo sees them and starts charging at him. And Atticus is like, let's get out of here. And Zale's like, no, he is a good guy. He's a bit dumb, but he's under Gundrel Michael's control. We have to knock him on the head and free him. And Atticus is like, that shouldn't be hard to do. And she's like, no, wait, what are you doing? And without warning, he climbs up and grabs him by the arm, does a flip onto the man's head, onto Apollo's head. He's like, hey, come on, hit me. And the guy swings his club around to hit Atticus. Atticus jumps out of the way and he hits himself on the head, dazing him free from Gundrel Michael's power. Now he's free and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. We gotta go save Poseidon. And that is where we will end. Hope you're enjoying it as much as I love telling it. You guys have a great week, and I will see you back here on Monday. Bye-bye now.